So we're just about to get started. And just like I was telling everybody, this is the kickoff to a new series that is going to be called Changing the Conversations. So I'm really excited about where this is going to be headed and just being able to start some of those conversations around movement. And you'll kind of be able to see why I'm passionate about it as we discuss today. So feel free to interject. Feel free to pop up a hand because it's all about just discussing and having that conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just going to stay off camera for now, but I will
Yeah,
definitely hop in. Thank you.
no worries at all. All right. So I did put together a few slides because I feel like that helps us stay on point. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Okay, great. All right. So I'm really passionate about this topic because, especially this time of year, everybody has had some sort of resolution, goal, or intent for the beginning of the year. And a lot of the times, these goals and these intentions are formed around exercise or some goal that exercise is the vehicle to, whether that's weight loss, getting that bikini bod for summer, or increasing our strength. A lot of the times, these resolutions come from a fitness standpoint. And a lot of the times we drop off of these resolutions or these goals or intentions because we either feel like they're unattainable or life just kind of got in the way, sickness or an injury. A lot of the times we drop these because we just don't continue to push forward or something comes up. And then comes in a little bit of self shame, some shoulda, coulda, wouldas. So when we have that relationship with exercise, a lot of the times we start to get this negative connotation around the word exercise. I've talked to a lot of individuals who have gone to a physical therapist and they have to go home with exercises. And a lot of the times it's just like, oh, I know I need to do them. I just don't do it. And no shame in that. I definitely have things that I'm like, oh, I should be doing that, but I don't. And when I talk with these individuals, I'm like, okay, well, what are these exercises that they want you to do? And how can we put them into your everyday life so they seem a little bit more like natural movement rather than a prescribed exercise? I hate taking pills. And so sometimes when we prescribe ourselves something, we almost are like, ooh, somebody's telling me to do something and I don't want to do it. So I just really like to explore that. How can we just look at it maybe more from a movement standpoint or remove some of that negative stigma that can come with exercise? So as most of you guys know, I am Christie Hajduk and I am the owner of 9 to 5 Wellness and I am a functional movement instructor. I have a background in teaching yoga as well as corrective exercise, and my passion is just to help people move better and be able to maintain those meaningful movement moments in their life. So, when coming to exercise, I want to come all the way back to the beginning. How did exercise even begin? Well, when we look it up, if you were to Google exercise and why do we exercise, they're first going to come up with a whole list of benefits on why exercise is good. But how did exercise become this thing in our world? We have booty buster boot camps and we have our big box gyms and we have all these different fitness programs that have come out through the ages. Jazzercise, Taibo, yoga has really exploded as an industry. But the whole exercise industry in general has really grown. So I really started to think, well, why? Why has this whole exercise industry really started to grow? Well, first off, we're going to take it a little further back and we'll answer that question in a second. So, where did exercise even begin? It started with the military. Back in Greek and Spartan soldiers, they actually used exercise to train for exceptional strength and endurance needed to fight in combat and stay fit and ready for those conflicts that may arise. Eventually, this training and individuals watching these trainings, it inspired sports. So that actually inspired our first Olympic Games or even gladiator fights for entertainment. But even though the soldiers trained for strength and endurance, and then you had these athletes who also trained for strength and endurance, the everyday individual still did not exercise. So why didn't they exercise? They didn't need to. They walked to market. They had to carry heavy baskets to and from market. They had to walk to go get food. They had to hunt. They had to gather. And they had to do all the manual labor that life required at that time. They didn't have the stores and they didn't have vehicles. So their life was full of movements and a variety of movements too. It was walking long distance, so your endurance, it was carrying heavy things and doing manual labor, which is your strength. Oops, sorry about that. The next one. So that kind of they're going to fast forward a little bit now. So given where exercise started and why the everyday person did not need exercise at the time, how has our health and fitness industry become so large? Just in 2023, it's projected to have a revenue of $30.8 billion. And that's actually down from 2019, which we know 2020 and the years after did have a huge impact on our health and fitness industry. But in 2019, it was over $45 billion in revenue just for that industry alone. So our health and fitness industry has really exploded these days, but why? Why has our health and fitness really exploded? If anybody wants to interject, they can.
Because we sit so much in our day-to-day lives. And so our weight has gone up and we've kind of lost focus with activity, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think 2020 for a lot of people was an eye-opener, how important it is to take care of your health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Netflix and chill.
Yes.
Instead of podcast and walk.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have now shopping carts that we use in the stores to carry stuff for us. We try and park, or maybe not all of us, but for the majority of us, we try and park in that closest spot. And that's always been something that people are like, oh, you got to get more steps in, so park further away. But we don't walk as much because everything is delivered right to the door. We drive right into our driveway, or we drive right to the parking lot and we're fairly close to work. So unless we live in a metropolitan area, we don't do much walking for commuting unless we do it for pleasure. So why do we move in the first place? Why do we need to move? So let's come really down to the basics. And why is movement necessary? Well, one, it's necessary for mobility. We have to get around somehow. We have to be able to go to the store, go to work, and we have to be able to get and interact with our environment. We also have unconscious movements, whether we think of them as movement or not. Our breath is a movement, our lungs are expanding, it makes our ribs expand, it pushes on the diaphragm. All of that is movement within inside the body. Our heartbeat is a movement. We can literally feel our heartbeat. We can literally feel that movement. Our digestion is a movement. Our digestive tract is constantly moving what we've eaten, taking what it needs and creating waste. And all of that is a movement throughout the body. Our eyes blinking and moving around our head so that we can scan our environment is also a movement. But we also know historically and now, we also use movement to express ourselves. So it's not just for mobility, it's not just those unconscious, vital movements that keep us alive and healthy, but it's also a form of expression. We can smile, that's a movement. All of our facial expressions, even just my hands moving around as I talk, are all expressive movements. Dance is an expressive movement. A lot of times yoga is an expressive movement, and breathing intentionally can be even more expressive and come into the subconscious. So we move out of necessity, but we know, especially when we're expressing ourselves, movement feels good. It really does. So why do we need to exercise now? And we've already kind of answered this a little bit, but I want to dive just a little bit deeper into that question. And we kind of already covered, but and Sherry already mentioned out that Netflix and chill has become a huge thing. But it's not just the Netflix or just TV and the abundance of TV that is literally right at our fingertips. Our TVs no longer go blank and show static when the programming is done. We have endless content that is demanding our attention and consumption. And it doesn't just stop with TVs. Technology in general has created a huge convenience for us. And it's not just in encouraging a sedentary lifestyle, which does happen. Most people aren't, I'm going to go walk on the treadmill while I watch my evening TV. Most people are doing the Netflix and chill. But technology has gone beyond the TV. Does anybody have a Roomba or a mixer in their house, an electric mixer? All of these little pieces of technology take away movements from our life. Now, I'm not going to get rid of my stand mixer because I personally don't want to knead my own bread.
Electric mixer. Yes.
Yes.
Like, how much does that save your
grip strength?
and
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just, one of my things that I picked up this year was making my own bread. And I really got some perspective on how much I loved my mixer. And the fact that I can put a dough hook on it and it'll mix my bread and it'll knead my bread for me. Because I was really starting to feel like, I'm going to do it myself and I'm kneading it. And I'm like, ooh, my hands are just not as strong as I thought they were. Or trying to grade something like, ooh, okay, yeah, my hands aren't as strong as they used to be. Or even a Roomba. You have to move that vacuum, or even sweeping is twisting of the body. Or now people even have those leaf vacuums that sit there and mulch it. Anybody else like hurt themselves as a kid, trying to rake? And I remember we lived on 4 acres and I had to rake and I had to carry tarps. Those are all movements that I don't have to do anymore because we now have these technology, this convenient technology or mechanics that takes away that need or that burden for us. And I'm not dissing any of this stuff that's going to make life easier. That's definitely not what I'm saying here. But they're taking away movements and we're not replacing them. How about conveniences within the food, shelter, and travel? All of us have a vehicle and we all use it to get from point A to point B. We no longer have to walk. And we can't just get rid of our vehicles because if you live in an area where we don't have mass transit or it's too long to walk, I'm not going to be walking from I'm not going to walk 12 miles to get to a meeting. Those are conveniences that have taken away some of the walking, some of our travel on foot, or endurance that we would be building up. We no longer have to carry big bags from the market. We can fill a shopping cart. We can fill two, maybe not these days, but we can fill a shopping cart, roll it around the store, and roll it right to our car. We're not carrying all these items, at least not long distances. We're still carrying them into the house. We also don't have to go forage for food. And a lot of us, I've been seeing this trend of farming and people wanting to grow their own food, which I think is amazing. But once you start doing it, you really do realize all the movements that come with it and all the movements that we're missing out on being able to go to the grocery store and grab that lettuce, that celery, those cucumbers. Farming creates these movements where we are squatting down. Would you believe me if I said the squat is a resting position? Most of us would not be comfortable sitting in a squat and preparing a meal or working on assembling something on the ground. Most of us don't have that access in our own internal movements. So convenience has really overridden a lot of our movements, a lot of our natural movements. And because we're not replacing those movements with other activities throughout the day, we're beginning to lose them. So how can we start to bring movement back into our lives? And this is one of the things that I really, really enjoy talking about and discussing, because there's no one answer. There's no one answer on how we can bring movement back into our lives, because it's all so unique and individually based. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, and I'd love to start to open up the floor for a little bit more conversation. How do you start to bring movement into your life? What type of movements do you enjoy, and how do you increase that time doing them?
Well, I do stretching every morning, and that's really helped me. I was encountering some leg and back pain. So after getting it in check, stretching is, I don't think people realize how important that is. And that is a form of movement, of course, an exercise. And at my age, it's really helped me with my balance as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Mary Beth, you make an excellent point. I was just going to say stretching is a huge factor that we should start considering. And that's what I actually teach my clients is when you take your mini breaks off of your desk, consider stretching your shoulders, your back, upper back, lower back, legs, whatever the case may be. Even if you're sitting in the most neutral position, we still need movement. We still need the blood flow to, get throughout our bodies. And so, stretching is a huge, huge positive thing. And I definitely do it every day. I do it even throughout the day, just so I can stay limber and feel more productive at the end of the day. So you make a great point.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Cher.
So we recently, because we live out in the country, we recently got a wood burner to, cut down on the cost of propane. And we live in woods and we have a ton of down trees. And so my husband started chopping a lot of trees, and we've been moving a lot of firewood, which sounds terrible, but it's been really nice. Like he'll get a log splitter and we move a lot of wood, and it just feels nice to be outside when you're like want to be curled up on the couch instead. So just that habit of kind of like having to walk out and go grab firewood and stuff, it like kind of forces you, and it kind of makes you feel like more with nature. I don't know. So
Yeah.
I've enjoyed
absolutely.
that. And I was kind of like, that seems like a lot of work. And it is. There are some nights where we're like, let's just let the furnace kick on. But we do go get the wood. So
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you brought up a good point too. It's about perspective. So we know it's going to be work, and sometimes some of these movements are work, but it's the perspective that you take into it. So seeing it as a great way to get outside, it's something that you and your husband can do together and even get the kids involved. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
all about that. Yeah, that perspective. I love it. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I'm doing one boring thing and one fun thing for movement. And the
Mhm.
boring thing is I'm getting on my elliptical recumbent bike every day, first thing in the morning. But the fun thing I'm doing is I got a virtual reality video game system. My husband
Oh.
got one last year. And for my birthday, I asked to get Beat Saber video game, which is like Fruit Ninja, but to the music. So you have
Oh,
like,
okay.
so you're like chopping down blocks with these lightsabers to the beat. And it's challenging. You know, you get in there and you're trying to win a level or do something, and half an hour goes by and you're breathing hard and sweating a little bit. So, but it's fun. So
Cool.
got to
Mhm.
add a little bit of fun in there. Otherwise, I won't do it.
Absolutely. And that's how we make movement more a part of our life, or a little bit more of a highlight of our life, is by making it fun and having fun again. One of the examples that I always like to go back to is when I used to go to the park with my kids. I would just go sit on the bench and think that I was going to get some reading in. I never did, because they always wanted me to go play. They always wanted me to go play, or I'm always making sure that I'm watching them. I'm not gonna go on the swings. You guys want me to go on the monkey bars? And then this year, I'm like, I'm gonna change that. This is an opportunity for me to get up and to move around. And then the kids are gonna see me do it, and they're gonna want to play even longer, or do even more things. So I started getting on the monkey bars, and I realized my hands were weak. Oh my gosh, like I watching these kids do these flips, climb up on these monkey bars, and I'm like, I lost that movement. I used to be able to do that. Most of us used to be able to do that when we played on the playground. But throughout life, we've lost these movements. So I really started joining in with my girls on the playground, and they loved it. One, they loved it because now mom's having fun with them, and now I'm that mom on the block, where all the kids come to the park and they all want me to come and play with them, because I actually get up and I play. So not only have I made the kids even more excited about going to the park and having fun, I'm having fun and I'm moving. Laura Jo, I know you have your Peloton. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I'm kind of an addict. And what I realized is that I went through cancer treatment, and I just found out that I have osteoporosis because the bike isn't weight bearing. That's part of it. So I need to get into more walking and more stretching. And
Yes.
those two things are vital, and it's hard to fit them into my schedule. So that's why one of the reasons I was compelled to be here today was to figure out, like, to just get some reinforcement, some motivation, and some wisdom, of course.
Yes.
But I really need to get those steps in. I've been trying to get up to 4 a day, but I live in a little house. I work at home.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, but I'll get there. So
Yeah. And that's the best attitude that you can have about it. And really it is taking these movements and these shifts into bite-sized pieces. I used to sit at a desk. So if we haven't had that conversation yet, but I used to sit at a desk for 10 years. I sat behind a desk. I sat hunched over a computer, and I was like this 9 to 5, actually probably more than that, because if there was stuff that had to get done, I'm like I have to get it done type of person. So I would sit at a desk like this, and it's been 2 years since I haven't been tied to a desk. I still have work that I have to do at a desk, but it's been 2 years. And even after 2 years of working on this, I'm still defunking my hips a little bit from all that sitting. I'm still working out some lower back pain as well because of that sitting. And the one back professional calls it glute amnesia. Our glutes have fallen asleep and they just don't remember how to work anymore. And another one is our back, because if we are hunched over our computer, or we just slowly start to sink in, or maybe we're on our phones, and that's usually we're head down, we're creating this C shape.
You're
And that
speaking my
C
language, Christy.
Yes, I knew you would probably have your ears perk up. But yeah, we're sitting in that C shape. And there's a lot of things that happen when we are consistently in that shape, when we're putting our body in that position for long periods of time. So I'm just only going to touch on two of them. But one is what's happening in our subconscious. When we are shielding the front body, which is where all of our vitals are, that is creating almost this negative signal that's going to the nervous system. It's telling us that we're trying to be protective, and it can almost create anxiety, depression, because we are doing this protective. We feel like we need to protect something. We need to protect the front body, protect the vitals. So one, it's not good for our psyche. It's not an uplifting position to stay in. It's not a positive position. Two, we're overworking our front body. All the stress is coming into our front body, and then our back body isn't working. We need to get that back body back online. Lori or Mary Beth had mentioned that earlier, for stability. We are losing our stability at a ridiculous rate. That's like one of the primary things that I work with on my private clients is stability, being able to stand on one leg, being able to feel like you can walk on unsure footing. I just went on a hike, a 6-mile hike, and the end of it was really, really muddy. And I kept thinking as my foot slid this way and slid this way and then that way and then this way, that I'm like, I am so thankful I've been really working on those stabilizers, because I was fine. I watched my footing. I was able to control at end range. So meaning if my foot slid back, I was able to activate, control my stabilizers, and prevent injury to my tissues and joints. But that came from movement. All of that came from this movement of variety of movement as well. So one of the things that I've really started to work on debunking, and how I've started to add more movement back into my life, even though I still have desk projects that I have to do, and there's still things that require sitting in my life, some ways that I break out of that mold is to take it to the ground. I did a series last year, and you can still see it on my Instagram, and I'm probably going to do it again this year because it was so much fun. I did 2 weeks of how to sit differently. And every single day I posted a new way that you can sit, a new fun way that you can either take it to the ground or stand, or maybe you're sitting on bolsters and blocks. But varying our position is one of the first ways that we can start to add movement. So that can be sitting down for a little bit in our chair, and then maybe we stand up. Maybe we take it to the ground, but we're sitting on a pile of pillows. Or maybe we try to get into that squat. We can bring some blocks and some bolsters into that. But getting up and finding different ways to move, like, okay, I've sat in my chair for about 30 minutes, now I'm going to stand for 30. It's about the variety. It really is about just adding variety in. And like Jennifer said, having fun with it. And as I start to move more, and if you haven't seen any of the pictures that I've posted on Instagram, my living room is full of ways to have fun and ways to move. So when we're watching TV, about 90% of the time, none of us are actually sitting on the couch. We're sitting on the floor, we're sitting on blocks, we're sitting on pillows, or I even have a balance beam in my room. And I have a little balance board. And a way that we make it fun, and I set an amazing example for my kids, because then they're like, ooh, this is fun, and I want to continue to do this. We have balance challenges. So one can stand on the balance beam and we throw them a sock and they have to try and catch it while they balance on the beam, or they have to try and pick something up off the ground while they balance. Or we have single leg balance challenges, see who can stand on the balance board for the longest, and they get competitive. My girls are like, I'm going to win. I'm going to stand on this on one leg for 1 hour. I'm like, okay. You're going to tire yourself out, but I love the enthusiasm. But we have fun. And it's interjecting movement into things that we're already doing. We're already watching TV. I'm not going to get my kids to not watch TV. And I like TV. I used to be in the film industry as well as a projectionist back when it was 35mm film and not digital. And so I loved movies. I loved, watching them. I loved just breaking it down, learning all the background information. So I really do love media. I do. But I can't sit on the couch all day after I sat in my chair all day. So we make it fun. And any other ways that you guys make it fun or interject new ways of movement into your life before we begin to wrap up? Go ahead, Jennifer.
What do you think about sitting on one of the big exercise balls as like a desk chair? Is that helpful? I've heard it is, but I guess it's like your take.
Yes. So again, it's about variety. So you don't want to sit all the time. You don't want to stand all the time. And then you probably don't want to sit on the ball all the time. So it's not about going all or nothing in one aspect or the other. It's about adding that variety in. So if you start to sit on that ball is really going to work a lot of stabilizers, and it's going to work your core, which your trunk is amazing. There's so many muscles in here that are all about stabilizing. So just adding that variety in. So just mixing it in. So maybe, like I said, not all or nothing, but just adding in variety. And then Lori Jo, I think you had something you wanted to share.
I do. That's one thing I do a lot of is I'll walk while I'm watching the news. So I'll just stand in front of the TV and walk in place.
Yes.
There are people that's all they teach is how to get a real exercise in front of your TV really quick, really easy. So I watch the news and it's a whole half hour, or I'll watch a movie, or I'll just to stand up and get some steps in. And it's not hard. It feels really easy, but when I look at my heart rate, you do get activity points. I mean, it really does make a difference in your heart rate. And so that's one of the things that I've been incorporating.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Go ahead, Cher.
I think just the awareness part of this is really cool. And, it's stuff that it's nothing new, right? It's just like keeping yourself. So I have an elliptical. Someone mentioned the elliptical. I'm like, oh yeah, I have an elliptical in my basement. And I actually, for work, we're reading a book. And I'm like, okay, I have to read 2 chapters tonight. And I'm like, I'm just going to go in my basement and hop on the elliptical while I read those couple chapters. And I wouldn't have thought of that because it wasn't like front of mind. I'd be sitting like I've been doing, and also how you mentioned that forward position, the way it stresses your body. That's interesting because you figure typically at your work, you're already kind of stressed out already. So it almost feels like your body's firing off position wise that it's stressed, but like mentally you're probably stressed from your work. So probably almost like compounds it. I thought that was super interesting. I didn't realize the way it fires off with your body in that hunched position. It's just very interesting.
Yes, absolutely. And it really does start to compound. And that's where a lot of the times if we go and we just do this, we're like, okay, I need to fix it. Because a lot of the times we're fixers. And like, I have to fix it and I have to do it now. Well, the muscular system adapts over weeks. It usually takes weeks for the muscular system to adapt. And our tissue system, so our fascia, which runs throughout the whole body, is part of our stabilizers, all of that, that takes weeks, that takes months to years to adapt. So to anybody that's got these resolutions that they're wavering on, or you're still going strong, stay strong in those, because changes don't happen in a couple of days. Changes don't happen in a couple of weeks when we're talking about our muscular and our tissue system. They just don't, unfortunately, even though we really want that instant gratification. Like I said, I've been working on my lower back pain, which has come from as a result of sitting for so long, for 2 years. I'm making some amazing breakthroughs, but 2 years. I've also been going barefoot for the last year and wearing minimal shoes. And that's been a year. So it's been a year, but over that year, my stability is off the charts, absolutely off the charts. I am just so happy with the progress that I've made, but it takes time and we need to give ourselves grace, and we need to, yes, we need to build those strong habits over time. It is a learning process for us, and there's going to be things that we waver on, and we might do well one day, we might not the other, but taking away that negative self-talk is just going to help us propel forward. Changing that perspective, making it fun, making it a non-judgmental space for ourselves, because sometimes we're our hardest critics. So I'm going to end it with one desk release for you guys. Since we front load that back body, we're going to breathe and we're going to take it to the back a little bit. So we're going to take our hands and we're going to place them behind our head. We're going to interlace our fingers. And we're going to press the head into the hands and the hands into the head. So you should start to feel that back body already light up. You should feel those lats come alive. So that whole back body should feel awake. So we're going to take a nice inhale in through the nose. And as we exhale, we're going to dip that chin in. Take a nice inhale and lift through that gaze. Exhale to dip it in. Take an inhale, lift through that gaze. We're still pressing that head into the hands and the hands into the head. This time we're going to dip that right elbow towards the floor, a little side bend. We're keeping that tension so that we keep that back body lit up. And we're trying to stay open through that chest. Inhale to come back through center. Exhale, left elbow towards the floor. Inhale to come back through center. And we're going to twist it to the right. Use that torso to twist. Go ahead and come back through center, keeping that tension on the head and the hands. Last one, twist it to the left. And come back through center, release those arms. How do we feel?
Amazing.
Awesome.
Loved it.
Great. Yeah. So creating that tension with the head and the hands is going to turn that back body on. It's going to create activation through our back stabilizers. So that's a great little mid-call stretch that we can do. We can do it standing, we can do it sitting, but that's a great way to get out of that front body, take it to the back, and to just get a little stretch throughout the day. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. This recording will be available after I get it all chopped up. So once it's all ready, I'll let everybody know. But please do look forward to the next call, which will be in March, and that will be on movement from a multicultural perspective. So I look forward to seeing all you ladies there.
Thank you, Christie.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
All of you.
All right,
Christy.
bye, everyone.
Bye.